minute when we officially kick it off to like introduce yourself so everybody knows like who you are and your background and stuff.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
Cool. So we are live. Is there anything you want me to share with people, like a link for yourself, like a personal website or anything?
No, not really, to be
Okay,
honest.
cool.
Should just be good as is. So
No worries. Where are you based, by the way?
I'm in LA, Los
Oh, cool.
Angeles. Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm what 2 hours behind you? I think you're Northeast.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
So I'm Central and then
Central.
Mountain Pacific. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, 2 hours.
I've never actually been to LA.
Really,
Yeah. I've been to a lot of places, but LA is not one of them.
really. Well, if you ever get a speaking event out here, let me know.
Yeah. One day I will.
Yeah, definitely.
Tiana is joining us in the chat. Welcome, Tiana. They joined for one of my streams the other night, which was really helpful, and they were helping test the.
Oh,
Oh,
super bass, right?
you may have been
Yeah, I
in that
remember.
same
Yeah,
one.
I remember
Yeah,
seeing it.
yeah. Because I was talking about. Was that just last night when I was that yesterday?
That was Sunday night. That was Sunday
Okay, it
night.
was a couple nights ago.
Yeah,
Cool.
definitely. Did you ever get that book fixed?
Yes. Just changing when I load the data for
Mhm.
or when I try to actually use the Supabase SDK. This is the bug with the front end part, I think, is what we were talking about then.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, I moved the loading of the data into an on mount function, which only runs in the browser for a
Mhm.
component in SvelteKit. So it worked out. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. You were going at it for like 2 hours. I was like, wow. On Sunday night.
Yeah. And my wife she had a thing that she was at. So I had like nothing else to
Oh,
do. And I've
yeah.
been really enjoying working on that. It's been a ton of fun. Tiana said it was a good night too. Yeah. And it was really nice to have people like testing it out with me. So thanks for that.
It's cool. It's cool. Yeah.
Um so we can like officially get started again, like pretty informal. But
Yeah. Sure.
you kind of reached out, I think just in like appreciation of content. And then I was like, you want to do a career chat thing? This is something I want to do with more people of just like giving people the opportunity to just ask really whatever questions they have. So that's what we'll do. And do you want to give a quick introduction for people that may be watching of who
Yeah.
you are and what you do?
Yeah. So, my name is Matt. Full stack engineer. I work at a company called Diginex. I started about like a month ago, and I credit a lot of my success to James here for all his helpful tips and tricks. Yeah, all your TikTok videos on like the job hunt process really helped me
Hmm.
out.
Oh, cool. I love that.
So, yeah, I just want to say thank you on behalf of
Yeah.
the whole community.
You're very welcome. It like makes it so much more fun as a content creator when people show appreciation and then also have like a direct impact. Like
Mm,
people saying I got my first job because I used this thing or I learned this thing and it helped me get a job, etc.
yeah,
So yeah.
definitely. Yeah, one thing that helped me a lot was your video on like not easy applying on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Because from the boot camp I came from, that was kind of the philosophy like treat sending out resumes like sales, like the more reps the better.
Yep.
So I kind of once I shifted towards like making it more personal, as you said,
Yeah.
reaching out to like the recruiters and the hiring managers. It kind of I got more interviews
Yeah.
instantly. So
That's great. Did you by chance like just share that with your boot camp to say like maybe there's a different approach that you could recommend to people?
no, but I told my coworkers about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're all kind
Cool.
of in the jungle, but
Yep.
yeah, I shared that video with them, and
Cool.
yeah,
Nice. Taylor Desson is one of my favorite people in the world, but he's a
mhm,
recruiter, and he's one of the ones that's like a huge advocate of that type of stuff. And I
mhm.
may have one of those videos that I did was a stitch of. Oh, that wasn't a stitch of him. Anyway, that's a topic that he talks a lot about too, as well. So he's really good if you ever want like a recruiting person to follow that has like really, really good advice.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'll keep note of that. Definitely.
So
Are you
so is
trying
this
to
your
keep growing TikTok or what?
I yes, I the short form content is like it's different enough from regular tutorials that I'm still kind of figuring out. And
Uh-huh.
so
Yeah.
I've had some that have done really well and then a lot that don't do well, and that's fine. That's
Yeah.
part of it, but I want to kind of continue to figure out like formatting of those videos and like topics and stuff that just resonate. with people more and continue to build on that. So definitely something I'm doing more of and just trying to iterate and get better at it.
Yeah, man, you're doing a good job for sure.
Appreciate that. Tiana said an appreciation thing that she can now talk better about Superbase to team leads after kind of watching some of the streams, which that's great. Like being able to take learnings from streams or just watching people or being involved with community or whatever and taking that back to a job and a team and stuff is super valuable. I love to hear that sort of stuff.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I love watching your streams, man. They're always entertaining. Always learn a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
So, yes,
I've
yeah, so
been
thanks for being gracious with your time. It's
yeah.
like Sunday night. You could be doing anything, and you're showing us how to use Super Bass. So it's pretty nice.
Yeah. Well, it gets to be like I get to be selfish with it too because it's also beneficial for the stuff I already want to do, right? And that's one of the
Mhm.
things I'm trying to do more of within reason is as a content creator, you realize everything is content. Like me working on that project is content. Like somebody can learn from that. And so I'm trying to do
Mhm.
more of that stuff in public, including conversations like this. So like as people potentially have a question or want to meet for 30 minutes, I'm like, what do you think about just doing this live for other people to benefit too? So
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I love it for sure. So I gotta ask, like, as a
yeah.
content creator yourself, like full time, where do you see like the creator economy going next year? Like any big trends? Do you think like NFT economies are on the rise, or what are your thoughts on all that?
I don't really like I don't actually have any knowledge in the NFT, the
Mhm,
Web3 space. Like my thing is I haven't really cared much about it personally because it seems like one of those trends that people are like certain people are talking a lot about, but
mhm.
it's just not a mainstream thing and it's really not a mainstream use case yet. So you see people give talks, you see people post about it on Twitter, you see people create videos. And like one of my good friends, Code Stacker, Jesse, his YouTube channel is Code Stacker, had his one of his biggest videos, which was huge, was on NFTs. And he has kind of said, like, I don't want my channel to like just be NFT stuff. Like that
Yeah,
was a fun
exactly.
video, but it was just a one-off thing. So
Mhm,
I don't think that's gonna have a significant impact personally. Like
mhm,
that's my opinion. But I do think the creator market has it just continues to grow. And like some of
oh,
this is me now just being aware of other content creators more, but I see more people doing content full time like myself, or I
mhm,
see more people doing more content. And I think it's just so cool because we're looking at career opportunities in a totally different way than we used to like 10 years ago or especially 40 or 50 years ago, right? Because
yeah,
now people have the ability to take something as seemingly whimsical as content creation and actually turn it to a career and still make good money. Like that's my thing. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't also make good money
mhm,
and still do what I love and have complete ownership. So
for sure.
I love the empowerment that comes with that of people being able to take their interests, their additional skills and creativity and put them into something that like really didn't exist as a job, as a realistic job or career 5, 10 years ago or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly, for sure. I mean,
You
that
got
must be
some,
pretty nice waking up and like having the freedom to,
yeah,
kind of just create what you want.
yep,
So,
yep. And I had a lot of freedom, like in my last 2 jobs, especially like work from home.
mhm,
No one's checking on when you're working or anything. Like you
yeah,
get your
yeah,
job done. So I've had a lot of that, but there is something different about like ultimate freedom, but also complete ownership over everything you do at every step along the way.
yeah.
There's a couple people commenting on the World Cup game. I mentioned this probably
See,
before we went live, and
China's winning.
I've got it on my iPad like underneath the monitor. So if you see me look down,
No
I'm
worries,
checking
man. Yeah.
in. Yeah. By the way, I've talked about this on the stream. I'm a big Argentina fan because that's the family that I learned Spanish from originally
Mhm.
before doing it in school is from Argentina. So I've got like personal connections there. So
Okay, that's cool, man. Have you ever been to the country?
I haven't, no. When I worked at Auth0, their second headquarters was in Argentina, and I really wanted to go, and it was during COVID, so there was never an opportunity.
Oh, yeah,
But I was disappointed not to have that opportunity. So one day I'll make it down there.
for sure. What's like your bucket list destination?
Argentina would be one.
That's one of them. Okay.
Spain,
Spain.
Spain is definitely one. And Italy, like kind of standard stuff. I think I've been to several different countries in Europe, but not Spain and Italy, which are usually like top of people's lists.
Yeah, definitely those seem like fun places to go.
Tiana says, not looking forward to, or looking forward to be able to not need a salary job. It's becoming like I've had a few friends recently that have started asking questions of me, like what it's been like, and in the thought of like considering that as an opportunity, especially now with there's more and more layoffs happening, which is
Definitely,
terrifying. And it was
yeah.
really fortunate for me of like having this as a fallback, which is
Mhm,
now turned into my like full time thing. But I could at least fall back on this, but not everyone has that already. But that's why I would encourage people to start to think about your personal brand. You don't have to want to be a content creator full time,
mhm.
but your personal brand will do a lot for you if you continue to kind of curate that and build it up. So
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point. Did you like set out to be a content creator? Or I think you said you were making like tutorial videos and that kind of just like spiraled
mhm.
into your personal brand?
Yeah, I didn't start doing this with a vision of content creator. I never started it with a vision of like growing a YouTube channel. I had no idea like what that meant, to be honest.
Huh?
The first set of videos I just did so that as I did these hands-on workshops, I was getting the same questions over and over again, and I would just say like the same thing. So I would record a video and then say, okay, go watch the video, and I don't have to
Yeah.
like explain. Yeah. So it was a way for me to kind of scale the impact of teaching at that point, which is like similar goals now because now I get to teach people all over the world. So no, I never had any vision or thought of that. It was probably like 4 or 5 years ago where I started to at least take it seriously of wanting to create
Mhm.
content consistently. And it wasn't until the last couple of years, probably 2 years, that it ever even crossed my mind that one day I could do it full time. And so it's been in the back of my mind for a couple of years, with it being more and more realistic than last year. And then once I got let go from the last job, like that was just the perfect opportunity. So,
Yeah, you should, take the leap, I
hmm
guess.
yep. Quick question in chat. Babek asked if I'm planning to do a session management video anytime soon. So like session authentication stuff, I imagine. Nothing in particular. That could be a fun topic though. So if you have like a specific use case or something that you'd like to see explained, I could potentially do that. Tiana also asked, have I worked with brand management people? That she's struggling with nailing down one brand image. Not specifically, I haven't. And I've gone through lots of debate, especially a few years ago, what my brand was versus the Learn, Build, Teach brand, which is my Discord community and my LLC. So that's something I spent a lot of time going back and forth on of trying to figure out what was best. But I've never formally worked with anyone. I think the easiest thing, especially early on, when I talk about like investing in your brand, is just continuing to stay visible to the community. And like you can curate that based on, if you want to be a JavaScript person, you should be posting about JavaScript. If you want to be a CSS person, you should be posting about CSS. So whatever the thing is that you think is part of that brand, just continue to show up in the community and talk about those things. Wes Boss actually gave me that advice several years ago. He was nice enough. Like I called him on the phone and we like talked for 30 minutes. And he was basically like, if you want to be known for something, kind of basically fake it until you make it. Like, not that you're really faking it, but you're not going to be known for a thing unless you talk about the thing and tell people that you do the thing. So whatever that potential topic is, just start to invest in that from a showing up and being present, and that'll kind of pay off eventually. And then you can refine what that brand is long term, right? As you kind of make progress and continue along.
Sure, for sure. But you're naturally like good at speaking. I noticed like through all your teaching videos, like the way you kind of break everything down is like really into like these bite-sized pieces. Um, yeah, it's right
I
up your alley.
Eh, yes, to a certain extent. I would also push back on that from the perspective of like some people look at what I do now and assume what you just said and assume that they aren't that person. And the
Uh-huh.
reality is like I never there was nothing in me growing up that you would have said this guy's going to be a speaker and a teacher. Like I'd never thought about either one of those things ever until the first role that I had. Part of my job was giving presentations and doing workshops and those
Mhm.
things. But leading up to that, like, there was nothing about me that I don't think anyone would have said, like, "Oh, he's definitely gonna do those things." So my point is, I think it's easy to look at people that have been doing it for years and forget about the fact that they've been doing it for years and think they're naturally good at it. And I definitely have some natural outgoingness and some things that contribute to that. But
Mhm.
like I've given shitty presentations and talks just like everybody else has. And it's something that I've been building over the course of years. So if people ever look at someone else and assume they're good at that thing and they've always been good at that thing and that's why they're successful, try to maybe change that mindset of like of thinking a little bit more about the behind the scenes of how much work did it take for them to get there. And that's a great conversation starter too, to like, hey, you seem like a person that's really natural. I'd love to about like, have you always been that way? Did you have to work on it, etc.?
Yeah, definitely. Because you give, like, quite a lot of talks, right? Every year?
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of what I've done since I started my career at Microsoft, and that's something that I want to do more of professionally next year. So like paid speaking engagements and specifically like bigger keynote opportunities for bigger
Yeah,
audiences.
definitely.
So I'm giving for people that are here, I'm giving a keynote talk at that conference in Texas. That conference is really awesome. That's literally the name of it is that conference. But it's an awesome conference I've been to a couple times before in Wisconsin, and I'll be doing a keynote at the one in Texas in January, which I'm really excited about.
Awesome. And, like, when you're on stage, do you kinda, like, use the I guess, like, the Jordan Peterson philosophy? Like, you have one conversation with, like, one person just 100 different times? Or
In terms of like how to gauge the audience or like read the
Yeah, yeah,
audience,
yeah.
or I
Exactly.
haven't actually heard that specifically, so I'm
Oh,
not
really?
familiar with
Okay.
that. But the like basic stuff that you'll hear from people is to continue to address the crowd,
Mhm,
like continue to turn who you're focusing on. And
mhm.
usually, what a lot of speakers do, including myself, is pick out a few people in different sections of the audience, and you kind of pick them out strategically to give yourself a way to address them individually, but also like areas of crowds.
Yeah.
Also, typically tend to choose people who are responding positively to what you're saying because there's definitely people that are not paying attention, they're on their phone, they're bored, or they disagree or whatever, which is fine. Like that's part of it.
Mhm.
But finding those people that are nodding along, that are showing support for you, helps give you a little bit of confidence as you're speaking too. So,
Definitely, yeah. Kinda just gauge the audience based off
mhm.
those people that
Yeah,
you
absolutely. B1 Mine said, I heard the same thing about artists and illustrators. Talent most of the time comes from practice. Absolutely. Because I've actually changed the way that I talk about myself as a designer. Because several years ago, I would have said, I'm not a designer. I don't have the eye. I'm not creative, etc. And I
Uh-huh.
still struggle with basically thinking that's true. But I watch all these other people that I do think are that. And the fact is that they've been doing that also for years. And I've definitely gotten better at design from the little amount that I've done. So if I were to have invested the amount of time that other people had, I could potentially be one of those people that people assume is a naturally artistic and creative person also. Um, so yeah, I try not to talk about myself in terms of what I'm not. I try to caveat
Mhm.
that to be based on like I just don't have as much experience in this so that I don't limit myself. That means that I could invest the time and get better at it like I see other people being good at it.
Yeah. That's a good philosophy to have for sure.
Um, Tiana said her birthday is, I'm assuming, one of the ones in January, so early or mid January. So I'm sure I'll see you in a stream before then. But happy birthday if we forget.
Awesome. Cool, cool, cool.
Do you know in your, well, I guess you've been there in your first role now for a month. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I started November 1st, so pretty
Awesome.
pretty fresh out of,
Yeah,
graduation, I guess.
that's exciting. What are the technologies that you're going to be working with?
Yeah, so we use, SQL for, the back end, C Sharp, and then we're using Angular, which is
Cool.
quite new to me. I
Hmm.
come from, like, React based,
Yeah.
so, I'm trying to pick that up a little bit
Yeah.
as well. Do you know Angular by chance?
I do.
Mhm.
I did Angular when I was at FedEx, and there are actually lots of things I really like about Angular. There's lots of things that I would prefer other frameworks for.
Mhm.
But that's one of the things. Like I think Angular has for people that aren't Angular developers, people have a bad idea of Angular in their head and they kind of judge it as this like
Mm,
very different thing. And it is typically more enterprisey. It's typically for bigger companies. It's typically for people who would do a lot more .NET type stuff because at least early on, it was the only framework that had TypeScript as the default. Now
yeah,
you can
exactly.
easily add TypeScript to React and Vue and all the other things and Svelte and all the other things. But then it was kind of like a leader in that sense. So yeah, Angular is an awesome framework. I think that'll be anyway. You'll have great experience. Just learning on the job is the best experience that you can possibly
Yeah,
get.
definitely getting paid to learn. That's
Mhm.
it's one of the best feelings ever.
I know, yeah. That's definitely the right mentality to have on a first job too, because a lot of people get intimidated about not knowing everything and thinking they should know more. And just a good company and a good team recognizes that and they put you in a position to be successful and they put you in a position to learn and to support you along the way. And I didn't actually have my first software engineering role until after 3 years of doing technical evangelism at Microsoft,
That's
which
right.
meant I hadn't actually written like production code. So I was kind of starting out as kind of an entry level developer
Uh-huh.
from just writing code experience. I had other skill sets to bring to the table, but I was like, the amount that I learned within the first couple of months, it was exponential. Like you learn so much by actually doing and being a part of it. So
Definitely, definitely. And you come from, like, a computer science background too, right?
I do, yeah. So I have a computer science degree, and I've talked about it a lot. Like I didn't learn the things from a degree perspective that I should have. Like I got good grades, but it wasn't because I knew what I was doing. It's because I like did the homework assignments and did enough to get the good grades without like really understanding stuff.
Yeah.
Because the first technical interview I had, I completely bombed. Like
Mm.
it was basic stuff that I should have been able to do, and I couldn't answer at all. And it was very uncomfortable and awkward. And
Yeah, it definitely is, yeah, I've had my fair share.
yep. So if you ever go through that, don't think that should limit you from doing anything in your career, and don't think that that's like the end all be all. That's just one interview. And the good thing is, if you take it with an optimistic mindset, you just look at that as like an opportunity to know here's the
Mhm.
things that I have that I can improve on and prepare for the next time that I have an interview, and not make the same mistake twice.
Yeah, exactly. Just, fuel to the fire.
hmm Comment from Haddish: the first 10 years of my career was me absolutely convinced I would never do that UI garbage. I've spent the last 10 years absolutely loving that UI garbage. That's such a good, like that's such a good quote. And that's also one of the things I've kind of learned just in life as like whatever random skill or interest or sport that people played, for example, running. Like growing up playing baseball, basketball, soccer, running was just punishment. It was never
Yeah,
anything fun.
exactly.
And so like when my sister started running for fun, I was like, why would you do that? That sounds terrible. So I judged that in my head right until I started doing it. And then I'm like, I got to a point where I really loved it, and I continue to do that
Mhm,
now, like, every year, and it's something I've learned that, like, anything that I've judged that's not, like, disrespectful to people, like, anything outside of that that I've judged other people doing or just been like, I would never be interested in that, I found myself doing and then have thought back to the fact of, like, I thought this was so weird at first, and now I do this and I love it. So I think that goes back to the, like, having thought the UI stuff would never be interesting, and now that's what you do. Like you never really know. Never had any idea content creation and speaking would be what my career was, and that's where I am now.
definitely, yeah. So
Kelvin has his own YouTube channel, so y'all should check out Kelvin. He said Angular is cool. Had a bad idea of it until I had Chow from Narwhal teach me modern Angular in a session. It's dope. Yeah, I think it's just easy to get really on the React hype train, and I love
mhm,
React. But there's lots of other good options as well, including Angular and SvelteKit, which is actually my favorite. So
Spelky, okay. I
mhm.
haven't actually heard of that.
It's cool. Yeah. So Svelte itself is basically the equivalent of React, and then
Mhm.
SvelteKit is basically the equivalent of Next.js, if you're familiar with like that
Yeah.
relationship.
Okay, awesome, awesome.
Uh, Swablu said doing something definitely gives you more appreciation and interest in that subject. Absolutely. And you start to learn, like when you watch somebody else do something with something that you don't know about, you just kind of think, oh, there's not much to it, I guess. But the
Mhm.
more you like get into anything, a sport, a hobby, a new framework, there's always way more involved in it than you ever would have thought. There's always way more intricacies. Like
Definitely.
with running, having a plan like nutrition when you do long runs and strategically know like when to do what nutrition and how to get the most out of it. And yeah, anyway, there's always so much more to it than that sits on the surface. I don't know if you had seen this, if you had been in a stream before. The Scion God, I just call him Scion, has been in a lot of streams and has raved about Svelte in a hilarious way, like super, super
Really?
funny. So B1 Mind is saying if we say Svelte one more time, then Scion will show up and spread the good word of Svelte.
Those felt. That's funny. So, like, what other languages do you think I should probably like
Goal. Sorry.
Discord?
Yeah.
Argentina?
Yep.
Oh shit. Okay.
Hopefully I didn't ruin that for anybody else that's not watching live. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, what other languages would you recommend I pick up? Like, I've got SQL, C Sharp, React, JavaScript, a little bit of Angular, I guess, under my belt.
Mhm.
Um, what else should I kind of branch into, you think?
I especially like right now, I wouldn't put much pressure on yourself to do much else. Like
Okay.
you're just gonna naturally learn so much from being on the job. And sometimes that's gonna feel overwhelming, most likely. And so I would encourage people and you at this point to like take the pressure off of trying to do more. Just make sure you're really comfortable with what you're doing at work. Because again, you're getting paid to learn and there's no better way to be doing that. If you wanted additional things, the one thing that I recommend people do, and I don't know how much experience you have with this, is just understanding basic basic fundamentals of full stack applications. And maybe you already have this, maybe you don't, but understanding the back end and how RESTful endpoints work. I think understanding some of the basics, someone mentioned like session authentication stuff, like understanding some of the basics there, I
Hmm.
think goes a long way. But I'm really of the mind that like the full picture of a full stack application of understanding what the different pieces are and how they fit together just makes you an overall better developer going forward and opens up more opportunities. So in my mind, if you wanted something to think a little bit more about, I think backend would be a great area.
Hmm.
Also, typically one of the things that you miss in boot camps is, or you never have enough time to actually do enough, is data structures and algorithms. So that's like
Definitely.
it's a mixed thing because a lot of people study that so that they can do Google interviews, and then a lot of people hate the fact that Google does interviews with those.
Yeah.
It can be really beneficial. I think it actually gets into like the science of computer science. So
Mhm.
I like the idea of people having a little bit more background in data structures and algorithms. So that's something that you could do kind of passively as well, and you could do like leak code problems and stuff. There's actually a JavaScript data structures and algorithms course by Colt Steele on Udemy. He's one of my favorite instructors. Data structures and algorithms, Colt Steele. Let me see here. I can pull up a link really quick. So I did data structures and algorithms in college, and then I went back and took this, which is specifically with JavaScript since then. So those are the two things that come to mind. I would also say like don't put too much pressure on learning more. Like make sure you're investing time at work because that's where you get paid to do it. And then
Yeah.
the other piece of advice is like if you have something that you just want to do because it's fun and you have the energy to do it outside of work, like have fun. I think that
Yeah.
should be a big part of it too.
For sure. For sure. Bookmark this.
Cool. Francesco is hanging out in YouTube chat. What's up, Francesco? Also has his own YouTube channel. Great
Oh,
creator. I
really?
got to meet him in London. So we got to meet in person for the first time about a month ago, I guess, at this point.
Wow. Okay.
How
A lot of
does
creators in here.
yes. Yeah, the creator. I think that's one like huge piece of advice is just like finding your community or communities, whatever it is. And for me, that's being active on Twitter, it's being in Discords, it's being a part of the content creator Discord that we have for programming YouTubers.
Yeah.
There's lots of different ways to do it, but just finding people that you feel comfortable with that you can ask questions to and get feedback from and all those things.
Definitely. Definitely. Business analyst clients.
I'm kind of reading the chat too.
Yeah. A lot coming in.
Someone said be really open to experience and knowledge coming your way. So often developers lose out on valuable experience because they feel this is what I do and not that thing. And I've actually gotten similar feedback for myself from a manager in the past, which I think was like good feedback
Hmm.
of like If it's not something that I'm already into the idea of and someone brings it up, I shut it down pretty quickly. And that's something that I should definitely do better at in my career. Going back to that conversation of like judging things in the past that I now love to do, and that ought to give me a little bit of idea going forward that like even though it may not seem like the thing for me now, I never know what that would be for me 2 years from now. Like that may be the
Yeah,
thing that I do the majority of my time with. So,
it's a good point. Yeah, you never know what can happen in 2
mhm.
years.
What just out of curiosity, and I'm gonna call it in a second, but what did you go to college? Did you have a college degree? Did you come out of high school and
Yeah,
do a boot camp? Like what was
yeah,
your
so I
timeline?
guess, long story short, I was a pre-nursing major, midway through my, I guess, sophomore year,
Hmm.
and after logging, close to 200 hours of volunteering in hospital, I kinda
Hmm.
decided, this is not what I wanna do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't even wanna show up to volunteer for, like, an hour or 2, one time a week, what's
Hmm.
gonna make me wanna work here?
Yeah.
So and then after that, yeah, I kinda just went back to the drawing board, um, reflected on my passions, and, building was just the number one thing that came to my mind, so
That's awesome.
it's basically what we do, just build
Yeah.
cool shit.
That's awesome. That's perfect. That's I talk about that a lot in career conversations is like you're much better off knowing that you don't like something and to find something else to do. And that's the cool thing about development in general is boot camps being one opportunity, but there's just so many opportunities for people that want to learn the skills necessary to transition careers. And it's really cool to see people go through a 6-month boot camp and have a new job in 8 months or a
Yeah,
year, however long, which then leads to a career of opportunities that they never would have had before. Because that just means you have that much more ability to make that much more money and have that much more benefits long term as you progress in your career. And it being still something that you enjoy doing is number one. So
yeah, exactly, exactly. What do you think about, AI taking over, software engineering jobs?
there's cool stuff out there, like some of the chat GPT and um GitHub Copilot and all those stuff. GitHub Copilot,
Yeah,
when I
that's
actually tried it, was
crazy.
like way better than I imagined it would be, and I was really shocked. But it's still like it's still nowhere near actually
Yeah,
replacing someone, I think. So it's like it's kind of fun to talk about. I think it's a little more like those sort of things are a little more practical to me right now than the like NFT space. Like I just see it
mm,
more immediately relevant.
mhm,
But it's not taking away jobs, I don't think yet or anytime like immediately soon. So I'm not worried about it in that sense.
awesome. Get to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Um, cool. I'm gonna go watch the last few minutes of the game.
Yeah,
But
go
this
for
has
it,
been
man.
fun to chat. I'm glad we got some time to talk.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I guess just thank you for being you and providing all this awesome content for, everyone in the community.
Yeah, appreciate that. That's what makes me excited is when I get
Awesome.
positive feedback about that stuff. So anyway, thanks everybody for hanging out in the chat. I'll go ahead and call it. Talk to you
Thank you
later.
guys. All right. See you, James.